So I was cutting some Korean pears, and I thought I would talk to you guys while I do this. It looks like a little belly button and a little belly, and it's so round and cute. In Korean, the word for pear, pe, is the same as the word for tummy, pe, so maybe that's why. So, I got a free 30-day Audible trial thing, and I saw they had a huge library of books that if you're a member, you can just listen to. Like, you don't have to pay credits or money or anything like that. And so, I've just been listening to a lot of those, especially Audible exclusives, because I want to make the most of my 30-day membership, which is going to end on like December 16th, so. One of which was called Caffeine and How It Shaped the Modern World, or something like that. And, it was quite interesting. I mean, it was just talking about the history of caffeine and of coffee, and how it's very weird that it's such a mind-altering substance that's completely unregulated, and we even give it to children in the form of soda. None of it was super mind-blowing. Maybe it would have been more interesting if I had never heard these before, but the book went over like some histories. Oh, the histories! The histories frustrated me so much because it was just, you know, how the West destroyed everything like they always do, and look at me being a good Korean bride and peeling fruit. Oh my gosh, the pinnacle of women being auctioned off to different families. Also, yes, I'm being disgusting and like touching the fruit with my hand, but I'm gonna eat this, so who cares? I remember in TV shows and stuff, the women had to peel fruit, and then like if they peeled the fruit really badly, the future in-laws would be like, what the heck? Like, does your daughter not know how to do anything? We canceled the wedding. And so I was like, and so I remember going to Oma and being like, oh my gosh, Oma, you have to teach me how to peel fruit. Like, I need to peel fruit, otherwise I can't do anything. Like, that's the pinnacle of womanhood. I need to learn how to peel fruit for my family. And Oma was just like, people can peel their own fruit. And so now I'm just peeling this really poorly. But who cares? Anyway, coffee was first discovered in Ethiopia by an observant farmer who noticed that his sheep would eat these berries and then have so much energy that they wouldn't sleep at night. So then he brought these berries to some local quack or something like that, and they made a concoction, and they were like, oh my gosh, this gives us so much energy. And it spread through like the Arabian Peninsula, and it became very popular because it offered the Islamic world an alternative to alcohol. They were like, well, the Quran says you can't drink alcohol, but it doesn't say anything about this new liquid that didn't exist before. So they called it kava, which comes from wine of the bean. I think then it spread to Asia, I don't know, but the West went to... Are my books shaking when I cut? Yep, they're shaking. All of the books that I have are just in this one pile on my desk. So if I want this book, I just have to like maneuver it out of there. And I'm really good at it. My pile has never fallen down before. Okay? So the West went to Asia and they were like, wow, these people are drinking like these boiling liquids, like boiling black liquids, what the heck? And that was coffee and tea. And even the fact that it was hot was mind-blowing to the West, and it made the water clean and safe. And so that's why it spread so widely, and the next safest thing to drink was alcohol, which... So anyway, coffee spread throughout the world and it became a global phenomenon. And England was hooked on coffee until they were too broke, and so they moved to tea. And Arab farmers, when exporting the coffee beans, would roast them first so that people couldn't grow them in other places and so that they could continue their business. But then some Westerners came and stole some raw coffee beans and planted them and propagated them, etc., etc. And this one man brought a plant to the Caribbean via ship, and on that ship, water was rationed. And so he almost died of thirst because he was sharing his water with this coffee bean so that he could make sure he got to the Caribbean so that they could enslave a bunch of people and dominate the coffee market, putting all of the Arab farmers out of business and destroying the world. Capitalism! Some parts of this book just frustrated me because of the history, and like, England was in debt to China because of all the tea they were drinking, and so what they did was they smuggled opium from India to China against their will and against their consent, and they created a really bad opium problem and destroyed this really powerful great society. But they got their tea, so... I mean, it's history, there's nothing I can do about it, but the way that he was talking about it was very, like, history class-esque, where he kind of just glosses over things, like, yeah, coffee, you know, the West destroyed Arab farmers, destroyed China, enslaved people, and, you know, people used to have alcohol breaks during work, but then it became coffee breaks. Isn't that so neat? And I'm just like, what? Anyway, other than history, He also talked about the mental effects of caffeine and how it helps spotlight consciousness, where you're focused on one thing, versus lantern consciousness, where you're just more aware of your surroundings, which is how babies operate most of the time, and also adults on other mind-altering substances. And how much did coffee help with that? I don't know, but like in the US Civil War, the Union soldiers were given coffee and the Confederate soldiers weren't allowed coffee, and the Union won, so... Also, the Arabs invented math, and they drank a lot of coffee, so... I personally don't drink coffee, at least not on a regular basis. Like if my friend has a peppermint mocha, I might drink some of it. I mean, all of these things about caffeine dependence and things like that just encourage me to not drink caffeine. Like, I have enough energy as is. I don't need more caffeine in my system. I'm okay. I'm good. This book was written kind of stream of consciousness-ish. The author, Michael Pollan, gave up coffee at the beginning of the book and then kind of told like what research he found, but it was just told so strangely. Like how I said earlier, the history fell flat and just like, I don't know, I don't think it was organized and written very interestingly. It gave me vibes of like that one kid in your high school who starts a podcast and you're like, what are you doing? Nobody cares about that topic. Nobody cares about what you have to say. You have zero Michael, what are you doing? But Michael is just so entertained by what he has to say, so he just has this podcast that nobody listens to. Yeah, it gave me those vibes. Sorry, Michael, but, yeah, the whole thing was kind of shallow and eh. Also, in parts of it, when he would be talking about caffeine addiction, he would talk about going to a coffee shop and smelling the coffee, and then seeing all these coffee addicts who needed their coffee, otherwise they wouldn't be able to function, and being like, oh my gosh, these coffee addicts, like, look at them, and me, I've quit coffee and I've risen above it, but then it goes back to coffee at the end of the book, so like, bro, what is happening? I don't know, this was such a strange book, whatever. I don't know, it was interesting to listen to, I guess, but I feel like you could watch a TED Talk on caffeine and get the exact same information in a much more condensed, interesting, engaging form, so y'all should go do that instead. Anyway, I've read a few other short books on Audible that are exclusives, so I might continue talking about them so you don't have to get an Audible subscription and give Amazon money. I think that's it. Okay.